Hello and welcome to Unapologetics. I am Brentley. This is the podcast where we read a Christian article and explain why it's stupid. The article, not the person that wrote it. I just want to make that clear. And I've got Secular Rarity here with me, man. How you doing?
Woo! I'm excited, man. I'm excited. This is I don't know if I want to use the term fun to describe this article, but I think we will have fun reading it. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, you got to separate. I know. That's every single show. I'm like, this is a fun one, and they're like, well, that's kind of
yeah. It's like,
insensitive.
well, yeah, not really. It's like, no, it's actually kind of perpetuating, terrible things. And but that's okay. We'll be here and we'll laugh about it. And we'll point out all the incorrect stuff. So
exactly, like we'll make it fun for you guys. How about that?
That's right. That's right.
Because it's actually quite depressing, and that's what we're trying to not think about.
We laugh so we don't cry, right?
Exactly. Yes. So tell me a bit about yourself, though. Secular Rarity. Like, what are you? What's your current projects? What are you working on?
Yeah. So I'm a silly atheist who goes out there online and talks about not God and not religion and all that good stuff, and just tries to be a voice for secularism and humanism, general human rights and stuff like that. I've been doing this now online for a couple of years now. So I started with Ethan Michael on Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist a while ago. So, great guy there. And now I regularly am a host on Talk Heathen for the atheist community of Austin, and the weekly Ask Atheist Anything for Atheist Republic. So I've just been, really lucky and being able to bounce around and get to hang out on a bunch of channels. We met on Left at the Valley, and that was super great. And I'm going to be back on there, I think, in the coming weeks or months. So man, I'm out there just talking to people and trying to normalize atheism and let people know that you don't have to have some belief in a supernatural to be a good person. So.
Well, yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you're really getting out there a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. And I'm lucky enough too that I get to I have a buddy in my neck of the woods that puts on live in-person discussions. And so I get to hang out with some people from my local area, and some Christians and some atheists and people everywhere in between, and we just kind of chat about it all. And normally we're either in a church or near a church, so that's kind of fun. But
oh gosh, that's crazy. So kind of like debate / conversation sort of thing. Oh, that's cool.
The last one we did was the 5 toughest questions for an atheist or Christian to answer. So that was fun. Yeah, we each got to come up with questions and really grill the other ones. So it worked. I still have the burns, but we'll be okay.
Almost took my ear off. That's awesome. Hell yeah, I'll have to check that out. But so this is an opinion article. I just want to make that clear because
right.
But
not a factual article.
And probably the facts that they cite might not even be facts either. That they have the opinions about. But so the article is called "Being a Conservative Christian Means Persevering in Defense of Our Beliefs." And her name is Caroline Smith.
All right.
And she's looking very judgmentally at us here.
She does. I wonder exactly why they picked that picture. I just feel like I feel like when you choose a picture of yourself, right, to like put out on an article or like the back of a book about the author, I think generally you want to pick a picture that makes you look like friendly and welcoming and nice and stuff, because that kind of invites people. Like, so she's a little stern in my opinion, but
I mean, right. And I guess like, unless you're like a horror author or something like that, where they got their hands like this on the back, with a skin tight shirt,
good point,
turtleneck, probably,
That's true.
I'm just
I would
thinking of
like
Clive Barker. That's all.
I was gonna say, honestly, you probably described like, 75 to 85% of the horror authors out there. Like seriously. That's maybe like the big armchair and like the fireplace in the background or the bookcase or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair.
Damn, see,
All right.
that's the thing I need too, because
You
it
do.
makes you look smart.
It does. It does, honestly. Yeah, I went with a stained glass cow and some marbles. So we saw how that worked out for me, but
It works though.
yeah,
It works. Like, it's like I know more about stained glass cows than anybody.
that's right.
Okay,
That's
no.
right. Ask me a question about marbles. I got you.
That's great. So here we'll start just from the get go here. So no Christian familiar with the Gospels is taken aback by hostility from the world. Uh, Jesus said, "If the world hates him, they will hate us too." That one really bothers me because it's like I feel like that's just their excuse constantly for being assholes. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, they
Yeah,
said
and
it.
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's one of those things where you're looking for the pattern, and that's why you'll stare at this random bit of sand for 3 hours until you find it. It's
Right.
because you're actively looking for that persecution, And so the moment you stand up and say, "Hey, wait a second. I don't actually think it's right that you're like forcing these things on other people and you're telling them that they're not allowed to do what they want to do." That's when they get to go, "Oh my gosh, you're persecuting me. Oh no, 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 no."
Right.
um but
With a
yeah,
lot of power too. Like they
yeah,
wield more power than they act like they have. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
And that's the that's what's really frustrating too, because it's one thing if you're a disadvantaged group politically, right?
right.
It's one thing if it's very clear that there has been a historic difference in terms of authority, right? For passing laws or whatever. But with the conservative Christian group in the United States, like, that's never been the case. There's
No.
literally never been a time in the history of our country that it's been like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so tough to be a conservative Christian these days. Like, look at all the actual persecution and stuff." So, yeah, I know. It's a very, very bad history lesson,
Right.
for them all, but
And I mean, I hate to always, compare things to like the Nazis, but like, have you seen like their propaganda, like during if you go back and look at the 1930s, like
yeah.
propaganda, it's so weird because it was like, oh, the poor Germans are
Mm.
being persecuted by this shadowy like, group
Uh-huh.
of like people trying to control everything in the background. And it's like,
Yep.
wow, this sounds way too familiar, man. Like,
Uh-huh.
it sounds
Yeah.
exactly like,
It
yeah,
could just be a total coincidence though, man,
that's
Could just
true.
be a total coincidence, right? Could
It
have
could,
nothing to do with the core of the doctrines, so
right?
but, yeah, whatever. Read your Bibles, folks, you'll find it.
Right. Yeah. It'll make you a good person, it'll
That's
make you good. So when pundits and politicians criticize us
mm,
as bigoted, authoritarian, and fearful of losing our influence merely for daring to have a voice in the public square, it doesn't stymie or scare us or stop us. Or stop us was a single sentence. They
yeah,
are terrible at these things.
yeah,
Uh,
it's a very bad sentence. You really could have just tried harder, honestly. Also though, like if that were the case, if the merely for daring to have a voice in the public square, if that were the case, I am going to be on the side of every Christian that is being persecuted in that instance. I want people to have the freedom to speak their minds. I want people to have the freedom to practice their religions, if and only if they're not harming others in the process and restricting others from doing the same. So it's like, if this were the case, we would hear more of the Christian nationalists in the United States standing up for the Yazidi people. Like we would
exactly.
hear these things. We would hear about this, and we don't. And there's a good reason that why we don't hear it, and it's because truly they aren't fighting for having a voice in the public square.
No,
That's not what
they
they want. They want only their voice in the public square.
yes. they want other voices to be quieted.
Right.
Because
Right.
when that's the thing, it's almost like, when they say like when other people get like raised up to their level, they're believing that they're being oppressed just because they see somebody else have something that
Right.
they don't think they deserve.
Right.
You know,
And that is an underlying concept. And that is where it comes back to the bigotry and the hatred and so forth, is because it's like, truly you don't have a justification for restricting this other group of people from having the same good things that you have, except for the argument that you just don't think they should have it because of who they are inherently. And it's like, yeah, that's the bigotry. That's what we're talking about, man.
it's like,
Like,
yeah, I mean, come on, just don't say that, and we'll, it's like, but they can't. They
they
can't
get,
not
that's right. They keep doing it. They just keep doing it over and over and over,
like.
right?
Yeah, they tell on themselves all the
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
I I watched one the other day. It was so crazy. It was like a feminist, anti-feminist video, and this guy was like, "Look, man, it's we're just trying to protect the weaker sex here. We're just trying." I was like, "Oh my good goddamn!" He just
That's
fucking
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
wow, dude.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. It's
I
yeah.
don't even know what to do with
Yeah.
that.
Yep, 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 yep. And you point it out to them and you're like, so do you see where that's kind of the core of the issue? And then they're just like, what? I don't understand. Women are weaker. And you're like, okay,
You
okay,
ever arm
so
wrestled them? Arm
okay,
wrestle a woman
okay.
right now. Let me go
Yeah.
get it.
Okay, okay. All right, man. Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah, it's
Terrible.
insane. But Jesus. So let's see where
Let's
we
see.
are. Okay. In fact, attacks on our views are evidence that I doubt they know what evidence means here, but
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
going to throw that out there as a guess. In fact, attacks on our views are evidence that we are having an impact and motivate us to sustain our offensive in the culture war. Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And it's
So
and
again, it's the evidence. They're saying the attacks. That means we're right. It's
right.
the Alex Jones was silenced because he's right.
Right.
Bullshit.
The fact that you're disagreeing with me is proof that I'm correct. And honestly, like, if we use that in everyday life, I mean, how difficult that would be to just like live life, you know? It'd be like you'd be at a restaurant, okay? And it would say like special of the day is like flounder. And you'd be like, "Oh, excuse me, I'd like the flounder. It sounds really good." And they'd be like, "Ah, sorry, man. Like we actually ran out today." And it's like, "Ha, see, the fact that you said that is proof that you have it back there. So bring me my fish." It would just you could literally never do anything if that were a true. You would just constantly be screwed everywhere you go.
Right. He'd
But
be like,
yeah.
get the manager out here, and he'd be like, yeah,
Mhm.
we don't have it. It's like he's in on it. He's in
It's
on it. That's what
going
this.
all the way to the top, all the way to the big top. The
The
guy's
big.
all the way up there. The whole fish conspiracy, man. But yeah,
Fish
that's
don't exist, man.
right.
That's
Right.
probably the next one.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's so funny. So, that conservative Christian, wait, see, make sure I'm in the right spot. Yep, that conservative Christians rail at the institutions controlled by the left in order to regain our once dominant foothold.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, I see. Again, they're so bad. Oh, so that was connected to that sentence?
Yeah, some
Jesus
secularists
Christ.
believe our goal is control. Right, 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 right. Why is
Right.
there an ellipses there? I'm honestly not positive. I just don't know.
It's
I don't know. Um,
right. So, like
yeah.
sometimes they'll put NRA and then in like quotes they'll be like the National Rifle Association.
Right, right. As if we were confused for a minute
Okay.
there.
Oh, that
Yeah.
NRA. Right. Okay.
Oh, Jesus. I thought it was the Nicaraguan Refugee Association. Like, forgive me. We're talking about gun violence in schools, and I genuinely thought you were talking about this other country. But yeah, it's just
That's
I mean,
okay.
have you read the Bible though? It's written pretty poorly. I mean, with that
Yeah.
as a basis, it's like if you're looking at that thinking this is good literature, like I get why maybe your articles aren't structured perfectly.
Right. And they want to use that for education. Like we got to just use this thing to teach how
Yeah.
to write.
Yeah.
No, wait, maybe.
Yeah.
Jesus. okay, controlled by the left in order to regain our once dominant foothold.
Mhm.
They see our claims of threats to religious freedom as springing from a victim mentality
Mm.
and objections to an ever growing secularism as an effort to claw our way back to the top.
So I'd just like to point out that in this article that this person chose to write, not I'm assuming that this person was not coerced into writing this. Like nobody forced her to like, say certain things or anything. But so far in this article, we're like 2 paragraphs in, and there have been like 3 instances that very clearly demonstrate victim mentality. Like,
Right.
so it's like I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. It's like imagine just watching somebody eat like baby back ribs in front of you and then just like barbecue sauce all over their face and then just be like, I just can't believe you think I like pork like that, man. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why, I don't know where I got that from. It's so weird.
It's like they're always doing this thing where they're saying they're not doing the thing that they're doing by doing the
Yes.
thing that they say they're not doing.
It's yeah, I know. I get it, man. I get it.
God,
I know. What are you gonna do?
frustrating. It's like, I mean, I don't even know how to interact with people like this.
Right, right.
Jeez. So some assert that Christians' dwindling ranks should be traced to our conservative politics. Yeah, I would agree actually with that.
Yeah, yeah.
It tends to be what hurts you the most,
Uh-huh.
man.
Yeah, it's weird how of the major splits that have occurred in the last 10 to 15 years in various religious institutions, not only in the United States, but worldwide, funny enough. There's actually something going on right now with the Anglican Church. I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but see, recently, the big master kind of Pope Daddy guy, whoever runs the Anglican, whatever person's just put in charge by the magic fairies and stuff
Right.
there too, because they all do that. The Orthodox have theirs, the Coptics have their whatever. Okay, they're all chosen
Right.
by God, but
Oh yeah.
this guy came out and took the super hardcore, like brave ass stance of saying maybe being queer isn't cause for somebody to be killed or put in jail, like something along those lines. So
Whoa. Hey,
I know,
whoa.
big
Tone it,
deal,
tone it down.
massive. Yeah, I know,
Jeez.
crazy. Thank you for pulling us into the future.
Right.
And apparently a handful of different churches throughout the continent of Africa, their bishops, or again chosen by God, magic fairies, people, whatever, they were all like, we don't agree with that, we're not cool with that, we don't like that, we disagree, we think you're probably being influenced by Satan. So that's a common theme that has happened in the past like 15 years, is that major splits have been occurring relating to just basic human rights. And so, I mean, again, maybe it's just a coincidence that the reason that more and more people are leaving these communities and these ideologies has to do with the increasing conservative and shitty nature of the ideology. Again, okay, correlation, causation, I sure as fuck don't know, but yeah, I'd put my money on that.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if we could falsify it, but if we
Yeah,
could, I would try it,
that's right. That's
Because
right.
wow, yeah, because the whole like conservative, like everything is just
Mhm,
you're the most unlikable person on the planet.
mhm.
Like if there's a room of 10 people and like one is like an ultra conservative, everybody's
Mhm.
gonna be on the other side of the room, but that
Right,
one guy. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like it's because we
right.
just I don't want you know,
And
we they're just
it
rude. They're mean.
the it's just it's odd to me that there is an entire system, right? An entire group of individuals who have consistently and regularly fought for the idea that no, I'm not interested in having fun, but more importantly, I don't want anyone else to either. Like that is so strange to me, right? Because
Yeah.
I understand at least somebody saying, like, for instance, right? Hey, I personally don't want to engage in certain activity. I personally am not somebody that wakes up and thinks, yeah, I want to go skydiving. But
Right.
why would you ever go out of your way to like stop people from skydiving? Like, why would you ever put any time and thought into that? Like, what in the living hell is wrong like with other people out there going
Because
skydiving.
it's a social contagion. Then my kid will want to be skydiving.
That's right.
And
That's right. That's right.
Jesus.
And see, and when you put it in something so far away from the anger and the vitriol and stuff, it's like just the core understanding of what they're arguing just doesn't make sense anymore. And you're like, yeah, you know what? Like, just because I don't want to drink like Red Bull energy drinks doesn't mean that Red Bull shouldn't be allowed. Like, go drink your Red Bull, dude. Just don't force me to drink a Red Bull. And then it's like, yeah, okay, so now let's just move that into just gay people getting married again. And it's like, oh yeah, once again, what the hell does this affect me? Like, oh man, I don't want to marry a man as a man. Cool. Just don't.
You don't have to, yeah.
No one's gonna force you. That's never been on the table. Like, I don't know anybody that's ever advocated for that. It's like, oh, I want to be a Christian and I don't want to be forced to think that, black people shouldn't be slaves. And it's like, hey, guess what? Once again, like, nobody's actually forcing you on this. We're just letting you know you can't enslave black people. Like, you
Yeah.
can still believe that horrible, disgusting thing all you want, I guess,
Right.
but no one's gonna like you. Like,
Right.
that's a reasonable thing. Like,
Yeah. Jeez, yeah, that's insane. And yeah, you're right too. And it's what kills me too is you always hear them somehow flipping it. They're like, look, if we
mm,
let gay people get married, that means it destroys the nuclear family.
right,
You know,
right,
every
right.
like every time was like every time a gay couple gets married, like somebody, one of the kids drops dead or something. What the fuck are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah,
about?
exactly, exactly. It's like the opposite of when a bell rings, right? Angel gets its wings, like,
Exactly.
every
That's
time.
what I was thinking. Like, yeah. That had something to do with Peter Pan, but I couldn't, supposed to clap or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's funny. Oh shit. So where
All
were
right.
we?
I
Let's see,
think we're at, yeah.
okay. So we're up here. So if we would just align, oh no, if we would just align our views to secular ideology, they imply we'd pull them. Well, we'd pull those dissatisfied nuns, no religious affiliation, back into the fold, and the culture wouldn't be hostile toward to us anymore. Yes, and Christianity wouldn't be Christian anymore. Wow.
Sweet. I love when when people tacitly admit stuff like that. Like,
Right.
that's I mean, I think it's wrong. I think it's gross and all that, but I always find myself on the sideline, like, cheering when people just make, admission statements like this, because it's worth noting that basically what we are talking about right now, what this individual chose to say makes Christianity not Christian anymore, is the idea of allowing individuals who aren't hurting themselves or others to just love who the fuck they want. So cool. It's great. Thank you for saying that. That's awesome. I love, like, there was some restaurant in like West Virginia a few years ago where, like, the owners came out and just were saying like horrible anti-Semitic things, and it got caught on camera. And apparently, like, their response to that was basically to say, like, yeah, we stand by all of this. Like, we fully agree with all this horrible rhetoric that we were saying. And some people were like, oh man, they shouldn't say that. And then other people were like, no, actually, that's great. I'm not going to go get a fucking burger from a Nazi. Like,
Right. Exactly.
so, like, yeah, cool, sweet. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Thank you for telling me that Christianity won't be Christian anymore if we just stop persecuting people for who they are. So cool. Good to
Wow.
know. Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
straight up. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Jira said no religious
Religious
affiliation.
affiliation.
And all
Right.
right.
And all right. Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Very
Thank
good.
you for clarifying.
That's great.
Oh
Oh man, that's
gosh.
too funny. Okay, so what many don't seem to get is that every genuine Christian
Mm.
believes that God reigns supreme and our responsibility is to him and his will and righteousness. Those who leave the faith because they don't like the church's biblical stance on moral issues like
Hmm.
abortion and same-sex marriage. So yeah, um,
Right.
we're likely China. Is she really doing the in name?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God,
Christians in name only.
Christians.
Right. Right. And that's again, it's another defense mechanism. It's another thing that you put into it from the beginning and you say, look, if so basically what you do is you go, if I'm correct, then these things will occur, right, in the future. That's how we do stuff in life. That's how we understand things. We make these predictions. And the closer we are to what happened, what actually occurs, that gives us a good understanding that we probably know it really well. Like if we drop a ball from a certain height every single time and the exact same things happen and we predict them all the time, like that's a pretty good indication that we probably understand at least decently, right?
Yeah,
This you put this little caveat in at the beginning because then what you do is unfalsifiable. You say,
right,
oh, so here's my prediction. Here's the test. Here's my prediction. But if it doesn't work in these ways, the reason that it didn't work is because of this third thing over here. And it's like, oh, well, can we test that third thing too? Just like to double check on it. And it's like, no, that's not something that you can ever, like, you can't ever like get into anybody's skull and see the like Christian neuron or
right.
something.
The
So,
dragon actually floats. That's why you can't see its feet,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, have the dragon breathe fire then. Well, the fire is actually cold, so you'll never feel. It's like, yeah, of course. So the moment that somebody stands up and says, "Hey, actually, I'm a believing Christian, and actually, my father and grandfather have been, preachers at this local church for a really long time, and I just kind of view the Bible a little bit differently and stuff, and then it's really easy because you just go, oh, they disagree with me. Cool, you're not a believer. You're not a
Right.
genuine Christian,
You
obviously.
just yeah, it's exactly. They can and you're right. They can always just throw them out basically and just be like, "Well, you're not my exact thing." Which honestly to me proves that was like the best argument I
Hmm.
thought for like why Christianity fell apart in my mind was
Yeah.
because of how divergent it is. It's just like,
Right.
science and stuff gets more specific and more like you know what I mean? Like the more you
Exactly.
understand, the more like the less divergent it is. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
you know?
funny enough, no matter where we go on the earth, when we test for gravity, it seems to be right about 9.8 meters per second squared. Super weird how 2 plus 2 seems to equal 4 everywhere. Like
Right.
it's amazing to me. But then you just go like down the road from the First Baptist Church to the Second Baptist Church, and they're saying radically different things. So
Yeah.
hey, again, could just be a coincidence, man. Could just totally, hey,
One of them's got it perfect,
one has
that's
got it right. Yeah. It's probably the
it's
Scientologist. Let's be
right.
honest.
Yeah, Elron, man, he was onto something. Like, jeez.
Oh my
Oh, that's
gosh.
funny. So the Christians in name only, happy to sport a fish bumper sticker, but unwilling to swim against a cultural tide that rejects or ignores
Mm,
God's commands. Oh,
that's
that was
right.
clever because they went the whole fish,
Yeah, yeah,
the
it
whole
was
fish
smart.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was good. It was
Uh,
good. But
Credit where credit's due.
yeah, right. That's right. That's right. We're not totally just here to rag,
Right.
we'll give positive feedback.
It's not victimhood that fuels our passion and efforts to stunt the growth of secularism.
Mm,
It's our conviction that if we are to survive as a free and prosperous nation, we must be a nation primarily populated by people who live and not merely signal virtuously, governed by laws that reflect the character of God.
okay.
Fucking A.
So
Like,
so let's govern by laws that reflect the character of God. Let's see. God is an angry God, so let's have angry laws.
right?
God is a God who delights in the bashing of baby skulls on the rocks. So I guess that's going to be a pastime now.
Yeah.
God explicitly, of all the things he could have commanded his people, made sure to really hardcore nail down how and where they planted their crops. So I guess we're going to need to reevaluate our farming sector.
Oh shit.
Um I don't know what to tell you with all of this. Like if that's the that's always the silly thing is people will say stuff like that and they're like, well, I really think we should just live a biblical life. Like I think our laws should be, biblically based. And it's like, okay, what part of the Bible would you like to base it on? Would you like to base it on that passage talking about the individuals who had dicks like horses and emissions like donkeys? Is that the part of the Bible you want to base it on? Or is it the one where somebody compares somebody's tits to fawns? So, what part of the Bible are you interested in basing it on? Have you read Revelations anytime soon? That's a fucking acid trip. That is
Right.
not a functioning government. There is no way
I
a
think
society lives off of that.
it's
So,
even kind of a stretch for an acid trip,
yeah,
honestly. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
acid
it is.
trips are,
Yeah,
Hunter S. Thompson would be like, "Come on, throw it down there.
yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
throw it
Seriously, like this is a bit
down."
much. This is a bit exaggerated, man.
Yeah.
But like
It's
that's what's so silly. It's like what part of the Bible are you saying is what you want to live by, right? And how do you justify that? That's the one question that I have asked religious people over and over and over again, and there is no good answer. When you say, how do you know what's allegory and what's literal in this book? How do you know? Well, there's no answer, because if you have a good answer for that, then you come to recognize, oh, well, the reason that we say certain stuff is allegory is because there really is no basis in reality for it, and it makes sense in the context of saying, I'm trying to tell you a broader narrative by using a reference to a deer, right? It's like, oh, okay. So then this part over here that also doesn't have any fucking basis in reality, why do you think that one's literal? And it's like, well, because I just arbitrarily pick and choose what I like. And it's
'cause
like, yeah,
God can make donkeys talk, and
that's
so if
right.
it
That's right. And take away the legs from snakes. Like, I don't know how you do that personally. I don't know
job
how
is
one
already
does
done.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like imagine somebody telling you that there is a literal account of history where some all-powerful being took away the RC cars from whales. You would just be like, I honestly didn't know that they ever had them. Like, is this just like a thing? And it's like, yes, the whales used to get together every year and race, little toy cars under the ocean. And it's like, how did that work though? Wouldn't the water have like stopped the? How do they even hold the remote control with their
right.
flippers? And it's
They
like,
don't
look,
have
I'm
thumbs.
telling you, this is what happened. This is real. This is true. It's like, God, why did you take something away from snakes that they never had? I don't get this. This seems like a waste of effort, but
Right. It's funny because it almost reminds me of like the legislation that's coming out. I'm in Florida, right? And a lot of
yeah,
the legislation that's coming out of here is like stopping stuff that never happened.
right,
And they're like,
right.
well, I did it though. See,
Yeah,
there
we're
isn't any CRT in grade school because
that's
of
right.
me. That's right.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, well, Jesus, man. Yeah. Yeah, we're trust me, we're trying our own terrible stuff here in Tennessee. We recently signed an anti-drag bill in public. Yes, you're correct. You're correct, Hunter. That's right. Wales, not Wales. But
That's great.
but our crap governor recently signed this law, and funny enough, it was almost like 24 to 48 hours after he signed that law, but like totally legitimate photos of him surfaced in drag like years ago. And it was so interesting to watch him in a live press conference in front of other human beings in broad daylight to just really struggle to try and figure out why what this bill is criminalizing and what he did many years ago, recorded in history on photograph, are just completely different. Just total see, because what he was doing was an entertainment thing. It was a, a fun expression of social norms being broken, and just broadening horizons. Whereas, of course, um
Drag
uh
isn't done for entertainment; it's done for research.
right.
So it's
Completely different.
oh God, yeah.
I know. I
So
know.
what
It's
did he
tough.
do it for? Like, what was it that he?
He
What was
dressed up for fucking high school for some reason. He dressed up in a cheerleader's outfit when he was in like high school or something. And it was like, Again,
Huh.
it's just very strange. It's just very, very strange. It's like, man, it's again, it's one of those moments where there's some, hardcore, right wing fundamentalist politician out there, and they're just like, man, gay people are just destroying the world. And then it's like a week goes by, and it's like, well, he was caught blowing three guys in a truck stop bathroom, and it's like, bro, look,
Yeah.
do your thing, have fun, live your life, be safe. I don't give a fuck about that, but for fuck's sake, like, it's just amazing how directly hypocritical these people
Yeah.
are so often.
It's freaky. Like, and honestly, that used to be like when I was a Christian. That used to be the way I was, and I'm pansexual, so like I actually could choose, and so I was like, "You guys can choose," and people like be like, "Because you can choose, you can decide." I'm like, "Yeah, I do it all the time." I mean, I don't choose
Yeah,
to do it,
yeah,
but I have
right.
decided that maybe I could at times.
Right, 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 right. And it's like, "Oh, so you're saying that you are sometimes attracted to men." It's like, "No, no, of course not. No, no, I wouldn't. No, God, no, of course, no, no. I mean, but I'm saying it's still a choice because I do it all the
Because
time."
yeah,
And
I
people,
could,
"What?
I could easily
Wait,
choose.
what?" I think you're saying you're pan, man. It's like,
That's
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Oh yeah, it was and it's messed up too because it just leads you into this like self-hate, like
mhm,
negative behavioral loop
mhm,
that just fucking
yeah,
sucks, you know.
yeah.
But let's see. But it's wrong to force your morality on others. That's in quotes.
Mm,
Some secularists will say, while they actively seek to enshrine their own. See,
mhm,
and that's in print. Like, it's why is that in print?
yeah,
Nothing makes sense about any of the
mm-mm. No,
the way they write these.
no. No, it's just the rest of your sentence. I don't know whatever. I
Yeah,
guess it's I guess it clarifies more information. I don't know.
right. Okay. I mean, because a semicolon would have worked anyway. But religious liberty means being free to live according to your own view of morality. But the plurality of moralities. Oh, that's good. I like that. That sounds like a song.
Mm,
Plurality of morality.
morality of
Um,
morality. That is
and
good.
right, and religions and their conflicting beliefs demonstrates that they can't all be true, and shouldn't we do our best to base our laws and lifestyles on what most likely is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's sort of the wait,
Yeah.
are they trying to say that Christianity is most likely
Oh,
true?
yeah. That's the yeah. I remember when I got to that point in the article the first time reading it over, and I was like, it's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm with you on that. Where are you about?" It's just it's one of those moments, where you feel like you feel like you've been disagreeing with somebody for like 30 minutes in a conversation, and then they say something out of nowhere where you just go, you're like, "Yeah, I feel like that's what I've been saying this whole time. You have disagreed with." And then they
Right,
somehow use that to like make their point. And you're
right.
just like, "Wait, no,
Like
that's not how this works.
Like the
That's not."
science on blood magic is very solid these days, okay? And we all know.
Right, right. Everybody knows you put lamb's blood above your door, you will be safe from ghosts. That is just standard
I
oldest
mean,
time knowledge.
once you put the blood there, though, there no more ghosts, is there? See, it
That's a really
works.
good
It
point.
works.
It's a really good point. I have never seen a ghost, and I have always had lamb's blood above my door. Yeah. You got me there. You got me there.
Oh my god, that's so weird. Like, so they
Yeah.
really just think it's so fundamentally obvious
Yeah.
that the religion is true, and that only comes from beating it into your head week
Mhm,
after week. You
mhm.
know, they're like, "This is normal. It's normal. Sing
Yeah.
about having be covered in blood. That's normal.
Yeah.
Totally normal to eat your god."
Yeah.
Like, like, oh god, how weird. Oh, good. Here we go. Christianity is fact based,
Sweet.
historically
Sweet.
evidenced religion, not a collection of doctrines and rules birthed in the mind of some sage or prophet. That's literally that's what it is. You're
Mhm,
wrong. It's not.
mhm, mhm.
Wow. Like
It's
this stuff.
almost it's almost like some of those really older texts, those ones where a lot of people try, especially, the evangelical apologists, they try to point to these ancient texts and say, haha, this is proof that our thing is real. Even though, like, what the person actually says is something along the lines of like, hey, you guys know all these ridiculous claims you guys make up for like Zeus and all these other nonsensical beings. Well, we're just basically saying that stuff about our God too. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't actually make your thing more sound,
No.
Like it doesn't, like what she's saying right there is Christianity is like super duper real, not just like some random collection of things people wrote down in the past. Even though I I guarantee she would say that Islam is just a collection of random freaking things written down in the past, even though they would say, of course, that it's completely like super duper real and not. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's exactly. It's a case of everybody saying my thing is right.
Mhm.
My thing, and even with that's what gets me, like, because even she did it earlier. It was like, Christian in name only. So even then they're saying my specific, like, interpretation
Right.
of my specific thing is right, and you guys are all just in name only. Like, it's just, I mean, how can they say, and then they can turn around and be like, but Christianity is fact-based, historically evidenced religion,
Mhm.
not a collection of doctrines and rules birthed in the mind of some sage or prophet.
Now,
It's
what facts? What facts, right? What historical evidence, right? And I've gotten into many of those discussions, and I've had discussions where somebody says to me, "Well, it's a lot of stuff from history." And I go, "Oh, fantastic. Look, we've got all the time. We've got so much time here. Let's chat about it. Pick your first favorite one that you want to talk about." And they go, "Okay, well, number one, this." And I go, "Oh, yeah, but then here's all this other stuff that debunks that." And they're like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But then there's all these other things. And I'm like, great, let's go to the next one. And so they're like, here's number two. And then I'm like, great, here's the response. Like, do you disagree? And they're like, no, that's fair. Number three. And we just go down the list and we
wow.
get somewhere into like the 7 or 8 examples that have all the previous ones we've just been like, okay, we'll take that one off the list, take that one off the list, take that one off the list. And they're like, yeah, but see, Elliot, it's a cumulative thing, and it's like, great, what other examples do you have? What else do you want to talk about? Because if what you're saying is at the end of the day the reason that you accept something to be true is because of these 100 examples, if we go through 90 freaking 9 of them and they're all freaking wrong, does that change your confidence in this? Because I honestly believe it should. If you're saying these 100 things prove my thoughts, this is why I believe something. Well, if we go through pretty much all of them and they're incorrect and you agree with that, shouldn't you stop really believing in the thing?
Uh,
Like,
But it's when you just believe all of them together without doing the thing you just did. I mean, can we
right,
just go back? Can we
right, right. Exactly.
don't.
That's what you do. That's what you do. You just go, no, they all kind of work, so we'll just let it go. And
But
it's
the
like,
the tomb's
okay,
empty though. It's
that's right.
empty.
I mean, how
It's,
could that be true? I mean, come on.
I
How
mean, what's
could
more
that,
likely? Okay.
hey, when you bring me the bones of Jesus, I'll become an atheist. When you bring me the bones of Jesus, how the fuck would we do that? Who the
I,
fuck would we know where
you almost
Jesus?
just you just almost just want to go get some random bones, like just from like the spirit store, at the Halloween.
or
It's
like
like,
or like
here you
a
go.
handful of like
What?
chicken bones and just be like Jesus was really a lot smaller, like in the past
People
human beings
grew
were
over time.
much
We're
much
actually all
tinier.
Nephilims. I bet you didn't know that, but back then they were people.
Oh my god, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's why all of our ancestry and stuff traces back, because it was the whole giants and the angels and yeah, that makes the most sense.
The angels fucking the women. Jesus.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
that's always a fun part to get into too. I
Yeah,
love that.
seriously.
It's everybody's got a different take on it, and they're all insane
Mhm.
every
It's
single
all
time.
ridiculous. Yeah, instead of it just being like, I don't know, maybe this is just a silly story. It's like, no, this has to be true. And it's like, okay,
Right?
well, all right, you got
I
these
think,
angels fucking women, I guess. So
and they made rock monsters according to the movie. Anyway, the Noah movie.
I don't see why not. I mean, at this point, it's like all this other stuff. So I don't know why God wouldn't have done that. you
I mean,
know?
that would explain why we can't find the bones because
It
they're
would.
just rocks,
They were
you
just
know?
rocks, right? And all
You
these
know?
little rocks that we're seeing these days are just like babies of them. That
Yeah,
makes
the
the most
pebbles.
yeah.
Oh god, that's great. Okay, here we go. It teaches that God revealed to the Jews, uh wait, God revealed to the Jews took human form in the person of Jesus of Nazareth, who willingly died for the sins of the world and was raised to life again to vindicate his claims and his mission. Uh, if God
Okay.
exists and Jesus is God, then Christianity is an objectively true worldview,
Mhm.
and anything that does not fit in it should be rejected and opposed.
Okay,
But
but
there's a big
if
if.
yeah, but if unicorns exist and unicorn poop has the ability to cure cancer of all kinds and all diseases, then anybody opposing, unicorn poopism should be objected. Right, right. Like we should reject them and oppose them. Like that's
And they
such a bad thing to argue
and
because
they
it's like
shouldn't be allowed to get married,
that's
okay? They
right,
reject our
absolutely.
yeah.
You reject unicorns and the all-powerful, shit that they produce, like, yeah, because if that's true, I mean, if that's for real, man, then, obviously, that's gonna mean a lot of things, down the road here. So, it's so dumb. It's just such a dumb thing, especially when it's like, that's true. It's very true. See? Like, whose national animal is Jesus or Yahweh, huh?
See?
Like, until a nation, like, picks you as their national symbol,
That's your
you know?
mascot.
Yeah, right, right, right.
Your sports ball team, it's
That's right, that's right. When
Jesus.
we get a some international sports team with God on there, like a little, like, plushy God, on the sidelines, and yeah, when
I
that
I'd
happens
actually be there for it, man. More
I would too.
Christian schools need to do that.
Yeah, I agree. That would be more fun. It would be more interesting if their mascots were like a talking snake or, Moses or something like, Abraham. It's Abraham and Isaac, but it's just the scene where he's about to sacrifice him and they just like play it out over and over again,
That's their,
Like,
like, thing that they
right.
do with the
Right.
gators who
Right.
do the gators,
Exactly.
they, like,
Exactly.
pretend to killing their kid.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, that's
Seriously.
funny. Oh, what a terrible story. That was, like, the worst story too.
Oh, it's really messed
I don't
up, and they just move on from it really quickly as if, like, that wasn't gonna be a massive problem. Hey, imagine, even with, God appearing in the clouds and speaking to Abraham, and let's just assume that Isaac saw all of that and wasn't just, like, passed out with fear or anything, right?
yeah.
Man, totally cool with it. They still had to, like, walk back home, you know? They still had a whole long travel back to their tent and everything. Just imagine what the conversation was like. Just like "So, dad, the fuck, man?
Right.
Like, you wanna explain that, or are we just gonna move on, pretend like it didn't happen?" Or it's like, "Well, son, don't be upset, like, God told me." And he's like, "No, I was there. No, I heard it. No, I yeah, I'm just saying, like, do you have anything to say, or we're just pretending we're just gonna be cool with this? It's gonna be fine." It's like, look, man, I know your ass is gonna live to like 950, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you know this. Like, I am not taking care of you. Like,
Right,
you
we're
will
putting you in a home.
die. Yeah, yeah. You will be alone and cold. I am not. Like, Isaac, why are you so mad with your father? Like, let me tell you. Let me tell you what he
Dude,
did.
therapist, listen, you don't even know, okay?
Oh
I was wondering,
gosh.
like, if he was like, "Okay, well, just so you know, I used your college fund to buy a new walking staff, but I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess I can start to save for another one."
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, seriously,
God.
seriously. Oh my gosh. It's just all so silly and stupid on so many levels. But
And
yeah.
dangerous, like, in a lot of
Oh
ways, you
yeah.
know? It's
Absolutely. Because it gets people out there thinking like this. And the whole sentiment that she has been expressing this whole time has been one of aggression, has been one of we have to dominate. We can't allow any deviation. from my particular brand of what I think is correct. No justification really necessary, but if we have to give justification, I'll hand wave to some things that make people feel good. I'll say science. I'll throw the word quantum in there once or twice, and then everybody will think it's good.
A little
You say
Deepak
that's
Chopra in it.
you say more than three words with four syllables in them in a whole discussion, and you're golden. Everybody's just like, oh my gosh, yeah.
It's
That's
gotta
how
be.
Jordan Peterson has made his brand for years. So
Yeah.
it's like okay, cool. So this is the mindset that people get, and they use that mindset to then go find every single freaking instance where they can just claim persecution. That's what happens because of these stories, because of this inherently corrupt and crap ideology. And so yeah, that's why, I'm not surprised that she called out Christians in name only. I'm not surprised that she mentioned historical evidence and fact-based reality and then mentioned none of it. Like, yeah, because that's what you do. That's what you do in this mindset. You just go, "Oh, well, it's right." And people go, "Oh, well, why do you think that?" And they go, "Oh, history." And you're like, "Well, yeah,
She
I
didn't
know."
think about it that way. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's like, man, that's so weird. Like, I know history's a thing, but I never would have just like said all of history proves. Imagine if again, insert anything else, right? And it just doesn't make sense. Like if you're like, "Hey, why do you think something is true?" And somebody goes, "Oh, tires." And you're like, "Tires for like cars?" And they're like, "Yeah,
That's why.
of course." Doesn't that just answer your question? No, that doesn't make any sense. What is
Raises
the
more
connection?
questions than it answers, actually.
Exactly. What about this proves that you're right? It's just all of it. Just
Just
every little bit
the
of history.
the rubber
Mhm,
like part.
mhm. Yeah, it's just the tread. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good point. And it's like, oh, and now she's going into so devout Catholic
Oof.
Joe Biden says he's fighting for the soul of the nation, demonizing quote unquote MAGA Republicans as out to destroy our democracy.
I mean, okay, in fairness, because I always try my best, especially when speaking with somebody that we come to different views, come to it a little differently. I always try to do my best to really make sure that I give their argument, right, as best I can. Okay. And so a
Right.
poll was recently done. I don't know if you've seen this, but a poll was recently done that asked individuals, some of which who self-described as quote MAGA Republicans. Okay, so they had options. They could have picked anything else to describe themselves as, and they chose MAGA Republicans. And they were asked a bunch of questions, but there were two really interesting questions that I thought. One was something along the lines of, do you believe it is against the Constitution and the principles of the government of the United States to be religiously motivated and enshrine religion, in law? And funny enough, a huge majority, a good majority said, yep, we know that's the case. We know that that is the case. Can't do that. Can't do the religion and government thing. And then like another question that was asked was like, but do you still want to do that? Would you still prefer that? And again, surprisingly, an overwhelming majority said, yes, yes, we
Wow.
do. So,
So they know that it's wrong. They know it's
right.
unconstitutional, but they're like also know they want to do it.
So when this fine blogger here writes about demonizing MAGA Republicans as out to destroy our democracy, I just would love to reflect apparently, what is the argument from MAGA Republicans, which is yes, they fucking do. Yes, they fucking do. They know that it is absolutely undemocratic. They know it is 100% anti-American, completely opposed to the founding and principles of this country, and yet they still want it. So yeah, that by fucking definition is exactly that.
Right, and if we're defining exactly, and if we're like defining MAGA Republicans as people that follow Trump, which I'd assume that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Um, Trump literally said he wants to throw out the Constitution,
Yeah.
and people are, "Oh, you're taking that out of" No, the fuck I'm not taking it out of context. I'm right in the goddamn middle of the fucking context. It
Right.
says, like he said, like, you can throw out all the rules if it's a sham election because I
Mhm.
decided it was,
Right.
including the Constitution.
Right.
Like, fuck.
Right. Explicitly pushed a narrative that undeniably not a single person in the history of our country or government has ever legitimately pushed as a way to decide elections, that, oh, actually the vice president can just pick. Like, if we're really not super sure, the vice president can just kind of close their eyes and pick some name off the. Nope, that's not true. That's never been the case. That completely is opposed to, once again, everything about democracy and so forth. But yeah, so I don't know. It's again, when somebody walks up to me and says anti Semitic things, and then I go, oh, hey, did you mean that? And then they clarify by being like, 100% I meant this. I'm
Kanye West
doubling down.
Kanye West meant
Kanye West, Kanye
it.
West, right? Alex Jones, like these types of people, I just want to be the best interlocutor I can. I'm not going to straw man you. I am going to repeat back to you exactly the horrible rhetoric that you have and the disgusting ideology, and then go, is that what you mean? And when you say, yeah, man, that's what I mean, SR, that's what I'm going for.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna take you at your fucking word, man. I'm sorry, but that's the world I want to live in, where somebody comes up and goes, hey, like, you know, this is what I think. And we go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sweet, great, man.
Right.
Awesome. So yeah, you tell me you want to destroy democracy, I'm gonna take you at your word.
I have
I
no
just
reason to, yeah, I don't
right,
think you're
right.
lying about that.
Right, what a weird thing to
Jesus.
lie about. Like, imagine if you just, like, walked up to people and were just like, "Hey, man, I just wanna let you know, I just really want to murder people, constantly." And it's like, "Wow, why would I not believe you? Like, why would you just say that to me without like, okay,
We just
yeah,
kidder. He's a kidder,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, right. You're so silly. Oh god." Like, you tell me you want to destroy democracy, I'm just gonna believe you, especially when you literally try to enact policies that are destroying democracy.
Right. Yeah, they're literally, I mean, they're trying to. Like, it's like I feel like, and I could be wrong, of course, but I feel like this is the death throes of a dying, uh,
That's
of
my
a
hope.
dying party or whatever, or
Yeah,
like a version of a party.
yeah,
Um, But I really hope that's the case. I feel like the younger generations and stuff are figuring this shit out. Like they're a lot more difficult to lie to. We were
yes,
easy, man. They they have the internet and stuff. Which still has a shitload of bad information out there
sure.
too, just noise. But like they're
That's
pretty
why they're
good about finding it though.
that's why they're cracking down on information so heavily. That's why so much of their focus is related to not allowing access to the full scope of information. Because as we all know, I mean, we were talking about this right before we went live with the p hacking, right? Like, as we all
Right.
know, anybody can take a huge set of data and just grab one or two little bits here and there and make this whole narrative that isn't at all what the data is saying,
Right.
right? And that's exactly what they want to do. Tell me why a law has to be passed in the state of Tennessee, okay, specifically focused on preventing, potentially traumatic information for children, okay, of which one of the books explicitly mentioned was the biography of Ruby Bridges. Tell me what trauma is in there to explain to people the overwhelming struggle that this child went through as a fucking 6-year-old to be the first black student in a white school in the United States. Tell me the horrors that the next generation must be shielded from here. Explain this to me, And so again, it's those types of narratives to restrict information,
Yeah.
because when information is restricted, it's harder to make it's harder to make better decisions. It's harder to make decisions that actually benefit the majority of people and prevent the minority from being taken advantage of.
Right.
They don't want that. That's not what they want, you know? And again, I'm not saying that. They're saying that. You're telling me that. You say
Right.
those words and I just reflect them back to you. So
Right.
stop
It's
doing that and I'll stop accusing you of it.
right, and it's also too, I noticed because, like, in Florida, they're doing the big book banning thing too,
Mhm.
and, yeah, it's a lot of, like, Black history books, stuff like that, and it's funny because it's like, the reason that I feel like they wanna limit stuff so much is because they always look like the bad guys, because they're always the bad guys, and throughout
Yeah.
history. The
Yeah.
conservatives were the ones fighting what Phyllis Schlafly, right? Like,
Mhm.
Schlafly, or fighting the ERA. Like, there's
Yes.
just like, every single time we've done anything to move this country forward, or to move civilization forward, there's a group of crazy conservatives trying to fight back,
Yep.
you know, and
And
they
there
just
are
don't like that.
yes, and there are so many religious narratives and religious argumentation that is used in it, and they know the direct line to the institutions and individuals in power today. They know that. For instance, in my area of the world, there are, interestingly enough, just a smattering of private Christian schools all around, all a
Mhm.
freaking round. Now, it's interesting when you go look up the founding date of these schools, like the vast majority, like we're talking in like the 90 some odd percentile, folks, hundreds of these. But it just so happens to coincide that these schools started to exist somewhere in the 50s and 60s. And it's
Uh-huh.
interesting. It's odd because when you look at this history, when you look at this, you start to see that as as the diversity goes up in these other public schools, the 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 whiteness of these Christian schools, good godly schools, of course, um, the whiteness stays exactly the same for like decades. So,
Jeez.
again, could just be a super hardcore coincidence that right around the time desegregation was happening in schools, all of these, white people decided to make their own schools focused on God or something. Um,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and they
Shit.
don't want to deal with that. They don't want to reckon with that because what they prefer is they prefer to be able to spend decades, centuries, just saying whatever horrible, terrible thing, just literally burning people at the stakes. And then just quietly one day, old Frankie boy comes out and goes, maybe being gay is not so bad. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you. Love you guys. And it's like,
Right.
oh, you just want to sweep that shit under the rug, huh? You just want to pretend like you haven't spent the last 100 years telling people not to use condoms because that's against God. Now, all of a sudden, you just want to quietly be like, no, AIDS is bad.
Right.
Yeah, like, no, AIDS isn't good. We don't want that. Fuck that.
Right. And yeah,
No.
every time too, and for every single thing. Exactly. That's a great point too with the condoms. And it's just every single thing they've been
Yep.
on the wrong side of, and they really don't want us remembering that.
Yep. Yep.
You
Because then they have to deal with it. Then they have to
know?
reckon with that fact. So,
Exactly. So we say, where were we at here? Okay. Uh, MAGA Republicans as out to destroy democracy. So they're trying to make them out to destroy democracy, was what Joe Biden was saying.
right.
It says, join the club, bub. We conservative Christians, most of whom have never been to a Donald Trump rally and don't own a red hat, yet per Biden and the left, nevertheless, wear the invisible MAGA star, have been in this battle for decades as seductive secularism has steadily been darkening our collective soul. I'm fucking lost. What was
It's a really
hold on.
bad sentence. It's a
What?
it's very poorly written, honestly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
These things get so
That is
difficult.
she's trying to say that many conservative Christians also agree the whole like there's people out there destroying democracy, but that it's actually on the side of secularism that's doing that.
Oh,
Right,
I
right.
see.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it is really really worth noticing this right here. Let me just see if I can find this real quick because again I would hate if somebody were to make a claim, me for instance, to make a claim that is so easily debunked by just typing in a handful of words into Google. So I'm believing that she obviously put that shitty level of effort into making this claim about how, most conservative Christians don't support Donald Trump. Now, she specifically says, have never been to a Trump rally and don't own a red hat. I personally think that's stupid. I don't give a fuck about that. I
Yeah.
care whether or not they support Trump and his policies. And let's see here. Oh, that's cool. There's a Pew Research poll that was conducted on November 12th through the 17th of 2020. So pretty recent, and it's based on about 10,000 participants. So let's see
Jeez.
here. Let's see. Of the white non-Hispanic group who attend religious services monthly or more often, 71% of them support Trump and his policies. So, again, how horrible it must feel to be somebody wouldn't level this accusation against this blogger. Of course, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, how horrible it must be to make some really easily stupidly debunked claim like that. So yeah.
And base
Mm.
their whole article on it. Like, it's so great. Like, why would you do that, man?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it's it's the Antifa were the ones that actually took over the Capitol, like,
Mm.
level of,
As
like
a false flag.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
false
yeah.
flag.
All those people that were out there that, were openly saying on camera that, they support Trump and they're doing this because Trump told them and stuff. They were paid,
Right,
paid people. Yeah. So
right. Oh, man, that's funny. So, and here's what ultimately gives us the confidence to persevere, and we will, colon, for no reason, we may have lost some battles, but our commander in chief will unequivocally win this war. Okay.
wow.
That's why do they always talk in terms of war? Do you notice that?
Constantly.
Fuck.
It's
Yeah.
constantly like that because so many of these individuals have this and I mean this. I've talked to so many different people. They have this mindset that literally happening all around them is this invisible magical fight where the entire universe, and not just like the morality of it, but the literal fabric of existence is on a fucking knife's edge, that at any moment some demon could just slightly gain the upper hand in the battle with the angels, and all of it will just disappear and crumble into non-existence. I'm serious. I
Wow.
know many people who live their lives like this because they really do believe that right now, all around them, without them ever really experiencing it in any way whatsoever, all around them is this battle raging for the very fabric of the universe. And it's just like, when you understand that mindset, it makes so much sense. So much of stuff makes sense because they literally do believe that allowing wine to be sold in grocery stores, for instance, is somehow these magical evil entities gaining the upper hand in real life. That is actually some physical manifestation of some shit like this. And it just escalates to more and more ridiculous things, which is why we have all these bills about no drag performances, which is why we have all these bills criminalizing women's bodies, like just all of these things, because they actually do believe that these things are around them fighting and could possibly turn the tide and just destroy all of existence. And it's like, oh my gosh, man, that must be such a difficult mindset to constantly be in, to
Right.
be in this state where you are expecting every little thing that somebody says or does to either be, you know, winning this battle of righteousness for all existence, or actually trying to just destroy the universe on a fundamental level. That just must be really tiring.
Yeah, it's gotta be exhausting. Holy shit. I
But
mean,
I'm
I
telling you.
remember I remember being like, I was into conspiracy theories and all that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And I remember just the thing, like believing about the Illuminati and like, because none of the end times prophecies were happening, right? So I'm like, but what if it was all done in secret? And it
Mm.
was such a terrifying prospect, but for whatever reason, as a Christian, it was sort of more comforting, I guess, if I knew that, if I believed that these conspiracies were all true too, or
Right.
something. I don't know. I don't know why it was comforting, but
Right.
it was like,
It
I,
is though, because there's this sense of that there's a sense of security that comes from saying that everything is all on this divine path, right? Like
right,
the idea, for instance, so a storm just came through my area not too long ago. Um, and it was just some particularly strong winds. I mean, gusts of like 60 miles per hour, you know.
oh, wow,
And so obviously we had some trees down. We had, unfortunately, a couple of people I think lost their lives in some part of the state.
right,
All that stuff, right? It is so uncomforting to truly live in a mindset where a tree can just fall on somebody and have such a finite consequence. Something as critical and crucial as causing the death of somebody we've known and loved, right? For decades, right?
hmm,
The idea that that could just be a truly random roll of the die is just
right,
so uncomfortable because it means that at any point in time, we could just trip and hit our head on a corner and never wake up again. And
and
that
not
is
exist.
just, that's horrifying.
That
That's
is,
just terrible. That sucks. Like, I remember the first time I think I was like 15, and somebody described to me what a brain aneurysm was. And I was just like, oh my God, why do those happen? And they were like, well, I'm not a doctor, like I'm not a doctor, man, but like, I think they can just happen. And I'm like, holy crap, what do you do to prevent that? And they're like, oh, I don't think there's shit. I don't think there's anything you can do. A blood vessel can just rupture in your brain at any time. I was
oh
like,
god,
holy shit, what a horrible life this is. Like, oh my
that's
God, why? Why is that the case? But
right.
it
Huh,
is, it may just very well be the case that sometimes trees just fall. And that sucks. And it is so much more comforting to say, even if what you have to start accepting is this incredibly convoluted and complex conspiracy theory where somehow, NASA didn't have the ability to actually go into orbit, but did have the ability to make digital imaging that didn't exist for 40 years and somehow kept like literally 500,000 various individuals like completely secret about it and like got the Soviets involved and the Australians at the time and like faked this and faked that and blah blah. Like
just keeps
you're
getting bigger.
because the other option is one where you go, I could just have a brain aneurysm in the middle of this sentence and it's all fucking done. And
Right.
it's like, that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
that's terrifying. Yeah, I get that, man. a
Right.
hundred percent.
It's like I was talking to I went on a Courtney Hurd's show, the Godless Mom.
Mm,
She does the show called Q Dropped. And we were talking like after the record, she was like, I was like, why is it, this same basically basic conversation. And she was like, I think it's like more comforting to believe that people are in control. Because the idea of
yes.
lack all control is terrifying to people. And
Yes.
so even if they're these nefarious evil people, right, it's still better than just nobody, at the
Exactly.
helm, you know.
Exactly. And it's an easy place for us to rest comfortably that that is an explanation for why things aren't better for us, right?
Right.
Because again, what we have to come to is the reason I don't have vegetables growing in my garden is in part because I haven't started a fucking garden. Like, if I don't dig the damn soil and plant the damn seeds and water them, I'm not going to have a garden, man. And it's so much easier to be like, yeah, but like, see, they don't want you to have a garden, man. They don't want you to be self-sustainable with growing your own food, man. See, that's why they haven't given us the cure for cancer, man. It's because they don't want you to be healthy. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, or it could just be the case that sometimes this shit just happens and we can do things in our lives to make it less likely, but it's still possible. Like, we know certain things have a higher likelihood of leading to these bad outcomes. And we can obviously do our best to avoid these things that put us on that path of risk. But again, we still have to accept at the end of the day that the person who lives the fucking healthiest life ever can still have a fucking brain aneurysm or liver cancer.
Right.
That's just going to be the case.
And
And
that's so,
and
yeah.
instead of us just trying, and instead of us wasting all this time and saying like, oh no, there's this cabal of doctors out there and scientists that just want to keep us like rats in a cage. Instead of doing that and wasting all this time, let's just do the best we fucking can to like make sure that we prevent it. And you know, for fuck's sake, unicorn forbid, but a tree falls on somebody, let's have shit in place to make sure that we can help. Like,
Right.
stop wasting so much time trying to come up with all of these radical explanations for why the Twin Towers fell, when in reality, we can just do things now. We can put policies in place, implement certain things today that make stuff like that less likely. And if they do happen again, we can have policies and measures in place to actually clean up and help in that scenario.
Right. Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers don't do shit. Actions do. That's
Right.
what we need. But again, it's more comforting when we just say, hey, there's this group of shadowy people out there that are just keeping me from, you know, doing better and exposing the truth.
Right. Or an angel demon battle going on.
Exactly. All around us constantly. I mean, just
it's crazy. Oh, it's wild. Hey, man, it was so good to talk to you, man. I really enjoyed this. It was a lot
This
of
was
fun.
super fun. Yeah. I had a great time. Hopefully everybody out there, you know, enjoyed it and got something out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was lots of fun, and let's do it again anytime you want, man.
Hell yeah, that'd be great. So, like, we do this like sign off, and bear with me, but I say who we're gonna say fuck off to, and then you and I both attempt to say fuck off together. Okay.
Oh, okay. I just have to say fuck off.
That's it. I'm gonna say who we're gonna say it to, and then we both try to say it together.
Let's do it.
All right, you ready? So, what do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers?
Fuck off.